Hey guys, today we paint the common blackbird. Mosterrast is in Finnish and Amsel in German. Really common in Germany, and I've seen them so many times, but here in northern Finland it's more a rarity for me, especially in this area. We have in our backyard at least 3 of them, and I believe it's a family which comes back from southern parts to live here over the summer. Okay, let's get started. I started painting by mixing some orange out of deep yellow and a splash of cadmium red, so it's kind of ready. And then I put some water around the eye of the blackbird, and then adding some deep yellow onto the beak with a very thin brush, and then I add some of the orange that I have mixed before, as well as around the eye, because it's very distinctive for this bird. Then I continue to mix a purple out of rose madden and some phthalo blue. If you do not have any phthalo blue, just use some other color blue shade, for example as cobalt blue. I wet the chest of the bird, and then I add a very light layer of rose madden in the shape of a bowl, because I want the chest to remain to be quite round. And then a light layer of purple, the color I have been mixing before. And again I try to keep the shape of a ball, adding here and there some light strokes to create some feathers, and then adding a little bit dark shade of purple, basically mixed of the same colors as I have done before, but with more of phthalo blue. And here darker phthalo blue hues, which is mixed with a splash of Payne's grey. And I add this color while the chest is still wet underneath at the bottom of the chest, and work myself carefully up. Then I add more phthalo blue and some of the lighter purple, as well as the rose madden comes through. It's underneath the feathers of the head, so that those feathers will pop out later much better. Then adding the same darker shade of phthalo blue and Payne's grey underneath some feathers, and continue with the head, so kind of wetting it and adding a little bit of a rose madden and some light purple, basically the same colors as I have used before. When I add the darker color of Payne's grey and phthalo blue combination, I am careful to add the feathers in the direction of the shape of the head, so it looks a little bit more three-dimensional. And I'm also very careful to add the colors underneath the eye, so that the orange remains. If there's a bit too much color, you just can add more water and spread it. It's important to look at the reference pictures, so to get the right shapes for the eye or underneath the eye, and the beak adding more of a darker colors so that the beak comes out nicely and takes the attention. Then adding more of a Payne's grey at the back of the birdie, which is slightly wetted. Now I continue to work with the wing, so I add more water, and while the back is still wet, the color flows, or the paint flows down a little bit, so it takes off the hard edges, and then adding some more of the rose madden and the darker combination of the Payne's grey and phthalo blue, which I apply at the bottom of the first feather layer. I try to keep variations of the strings. I continue with the third layer, or with the bottom layer of the wings, and add phthalo blue and Payne's grey, and then some rose madden and deep yellow. I continue with the wing, just adding a very light layer of purple I have used for the chest as well, and then continue adding more of the dark of phthalo blue and Payne's grey color, while those colors or those layers are mixing well together. Now adding here on there some more darker colors, as well as I continue to work with the chest of the bird, and first add more of darker Payne's grey underneath the wing, and the wing is not wetted but the chest has been, and I continue carefully with the rest of the chest, especially at the bottom, so it's kind of like adds more of a roundness. In between I leave some of the previous layers to shine through, so it kind of like really looks quite nice, and has this not focal point, but it kind of creates a really nice contrast, and you can add more detailed feathers, kind of like a feather-like spots, although the bird is more abstract rather than very detailed and very realistic like. I try not to overdo it with the Payne's grey, so I really add a combination of the darker purple and then Payne's grey on the side. Then at the back of the bird, add more of the darker Payne's grey, and then I look at the reference pictures where are more of a detailed feathers. If you think you need more color underneath the beaks, feel free to do that, but use a very thin brush. Now it's basically on the head, just adding here and there some light details or light feathers. I wetted a little bit the top of the chest, and then adding a light purple, but not too much, and then I continue with the wings to make them more striking. Meanwhile they have dried, so it's nice to add more of a colors to separate them, just using a medium strong layer, as well adding some more Payne's grey purple to the lower part of the wing and underneath. Of course I have the top of the wing or the back of the wing, adding some more colors and quite strong with spreading the paint, so the different feathers are separated. I continue with the eye, adding just a dull blue and a pinch of Payne's grey, but I leave it at that. And then I continue with the background. You should use clean water. I had a little bit of a purplish color in mine, but it didn't change much of the colors at the end. Then adding some lemon yellow on different spots. With the lemon yellow I mix some phthalo blue as well, so I don't use too many different colors, and then spreading it in the background, which is mixing slightly with the lemon yellow as well. And then I add a new color, which is turquoise blue, especially underneath the beak. I thought it might give a nice contrast to the orange. I add as well to the background more of the turquoise blue. Obviously this little bird is sitting in a forest area, so on a forest ground, but I did not want to add too much of the details, just keep it quite light. And then add, while the paper is still red, I add some more water to the chest because I wanted to avoid to have hard edges. But about the Eurasian blackbird, which I'm painting here, it is very common in Europe, especially the male ones are distinctive with the black feathers and the very bright orange beaks, and of course the rings around the eyes, while the female blackbirds is more of a brownish colors. They are actually quite territorial birds, but if the climate is cooler, for example as here in northern Finland, they migrate to warmer areas. They are quite monogamous as long as they both survive. However, they usually live up to only 2.5 years. So they have many predatory animals around, for example cats, and as well as other predatory birds as the hawks are. But in the better conditions they can live up to 21 years. Blackbirds are used to be called or ouzel in the Old English, and they actually quite resembles the word German Amsel. The bird itself has been even mentioned in Shakespeare Midsummer Night Dreams, and they're mentioned in different legends or in different cultures as they are quite common, because as they are black, they are considered to be connected to death and magic, or being called shapeshifters who guiding seekers through the darkness to light. But now I continue with my painting, and here the tail of the blackbird I added a little bit too much color and worked with a too big brush, but it's not a catastrophe, so I took off with some paper the color away. Here at the back I thought it might be too light for the fact that the bird is actually quite black, so I add more of a Payne's grey mixed with actual black color. Then as the chest remains quite light, I add more of dark colors there, and I continue to work with the eye, basically just adding more of a Payne's grey, but I try to be careful so that the highlight in the eye remains quite intact, And then adding more orange to the beak as well as to the ring of the eye, as they remained quite pale. Now wetting the back of the bird and adding more of the black color, so it spreads nicely and it gives a soft edge as well as it emphasizes the roundness of the bird as a whole. Then adding more of the black to the tail of the bird underneath the wings, as well as adding more of the turquoise blue. Now a very strong color with less water and the surrounding has been wetted, so the wider, or not wider chest, but the highlighted chest remains quite in the focus and it really pops out. And I'm just adding here and there more of a greenish colors, more of a darkish turquoise blue, and then a touch of dark colors between the eye and the beak, so the roundness of the head is more emphasized, and to emphasize more the shape of the head I added more water and a light layer of turquoise blue. Okay, that was it. Thank you very much for watching and remember to subscribe. Bye!